Welcome back. We're going to move on now. We've already done now the only allow lowercase letters. So we want to only allow one space between words and then converting the first word to the first letter of each word to uppercase. Okay, so we'll continue on with the code. And the last test that we had was, say, for lowercase letters and for the space. So it makes sense here now that what we would need to do is check to see if a space has been used, and if it has, don't accept another space. Now, if we were going to allow for more than one space, let's say 2 between sentences, we would need a counter of some kind. So either way, we're going to need a variable that's going to keep track of how many spaces, or if it's only one space, whether a space has been used or not used. In our case, it's only one space, so we'll create a Boolean variable. So just where I've created for now, you'll see shortly that we'll have to take it out of here, but just for now, so you can see the result, we'll create a Boolean variable in here, and let's call it space used, and we'll give it the default value of false because we haven't used any spaces yet. So far now we're allowing these characters, but we should only also allow the space character, but also only if it hasn't been used before. So I would need to put an and in here, right, and treat that as something completely separate. So we have an and between these two things because we're allowing that range between there, and then we or whatever comes next, and the or part we'll also put in brackets. And what we want is it for char value to be equal to 32 and not have been used before. So space used equals false, or I can just use the exclamation mark for not space used. So it's only going to come in here now if the space hasn't been used before. And so if it hasn't been used before, so this here at the minute will do everything it's done before because space used has been defaulted to false. So what I need to do now is check to see what has happened. Has space been used before or whatever before I can continue on. So I want to check to see if we've just entered a space. We can do that with checking the value. Right, and if it has been entered, I want to set space used equal to true, and if it hasn't been, right, we'll go now to an else statement. Just take that out of there, I'm just thinking ahead of myself. So if it has been used, set that to true, else set it to false. So we're just toggling this here based on whether it's been used or not. So the first time it comes in, it'll set that to true, and then it'll do the print as normal. The next time, because it's set to true, it won't come in again if we have another space. But if we have a non-space character, it will come in, that will no longer be true. So we'll go in here, reset that back to false for the next time. Now, if we go ahead and test that, so if I was to type Mary and then a whole lot of, let's spell Mary right, a whole lot of spaces, right, and then something else, you can see that the whole lot of spaces is still coming out up here. Now the reason for that is that this variable, this Boolean variable, each time we come out of this routine, right, so this method, it gets destroyed and then recreated again. So every time I click on a key, it's actually defaulted back to false. So I would need to make this variable, if I take it out of here, a global variable. So if you can see that it's not recognized now, but if I created outside, say, of this routine, it's now global, so it won't be changed each time it goes into it. And if I run that and try again, so if I do Mary followed by a whole lot of spaces, add, again, a whole lot of spaces, a little, so you can see that's giving us exactly what we expected from it. So we'll move on now to the next part, was the real-time conversion of the first character, right, to uppercase. And because we know the value of what an uppercase letter is and what a lowercase letter is, it's very easy to convert. The uppercase letter A is the value 65, which is 32 less than 97, and it goes from 65 to 90. 90 is 32 less than 122. So we can just, if it's a character, we can just subtract 32 from it, and we get the uppercase version. So I'll move that to the side. So we'll need we'll need another way of checking to see if the next character should be an uppercase character. So I'll create another Boolean variable, and I'll call it next is upper. Okay, so next is upper. I'll set it to true. And I'm setting it to true because the very first letter that we see should be an uppercase letter. So next is upper is set to true. So now we have to determine whether we display the character's uppercase version or its lowercase version. So if we've used a space, at some stage next is upper is going to be set to false. So if we have used a space, I want to set next is upper back to true again. Okay, and we're fine here so far. So outside of this condition, but before we do our print, I want to then test to see if next is upper. In other words, if it's true and not space used, so if the next character should be an uppercase, right, but we don't want to make if it's a space, we don't want to subtract 32 from a space. So only if its next character is to be an uppercase but it's not, we haven't used a space, do I want to print out the actual uppercase. So I could copy that, right, and put that in there. Right, I'll leave it there for now. So now we've printed that out, I would also need to say next is upper is equal to false, because I don't want the next one now to be an uppercase. Else I'll just display what the character actually is. So I just cut that from there, Control X, and put it in there. So we want to do something slightly different to this. Alright, all we want to do is subtract 32 from it. Now if I take ECHAR and subtract 32 and then print out the string version, it'll print me out the string version of the number. So if I typed in a lowercase letter a, which is 97, it would subtract that and give me the value 65. So if I want to check that out, if I run it now, I'm just going to get the same input. But if I take ECHAR and subtract 32 from it before converting it to a string, then if I run that and put in an A, you can see that I'm getting the value 65. So I don't want the value 65, I want the uppercase letter that corresponds to that. So I'll do the output here slightly different. I'll take the toString part away and I'll convert to a char, whatever e char minus 32 is. So this time if I did a lowercase letter a, you can see I'm getting an uppercase letter A above there. So if I run that again and type Mary had a little lamb, so you can see it's all working nicely. I need to divide you a few spaces. Get the capital T, I'll do a exclamation mark, but that's not going in there, it's fleece. So you can see that's all working nicely and it's working as expected. And there's all the code that achieves that with just those two variables, just declared as global. We could declare them as static variables, but that'll be for another lesson.